God didn't make Rambo, this man did. That's right, today we're looking at the lifetimes, campaigns, and most importantly the medals of Rambo's only friend, mentor, and commanding officer, Colonel Sam Trautman. Bursting on the scene in First Blood, Trautman, played by Richard Crenna, is sent by Washington to de-escalate the conflict between a rampaging Rambo and small-town Sheriff Teasel's brutal deputies. Trautman warns Teasel that Rambo is an expert in guerrilla warfare, trained to ignore pain, ignore the weather, and to live off the land. However, the petty police chief chooses to ignore these warnings. Not needing MREs, DoorDash, or Deliveroo, Rambo was instead trained by Trautman to eat things that would make a billy goat puke. What we call hell, he calls home. He must be from Swindon. There is a lack of consistency in Trautman's ribbons between First Blood and Rambo 3. Furthermore, it's more difficult to clearly identify the ribbons due to camera angles and resolution, but several can be inferred from their colours and placement, as well as the context of Trautman's service. The main difference is that by the time we get to Rambo 3, Trautman's Silver Star has disappeared and replaced with another medal. For the sake of simplicity, and as there is a new medal we haven't covered, I will go with Rambo 3's ribbons. In this case, Trautman's ribbons show one possible gallantry decoration, 4 commendation or distinguished service medals, a wound medal, a couple of service ribbons, and a variety of campaign or service medals, including 2 foreign awards. He also has 3 unit citations. Interestingly, Kirk Douglas was first cast for the role of Trautman, but quit over script disputes. Apparently, he wanted to stick to the book where Rambo dies rather than be led away into captivity by Trautman. Trautman served as director of the Green Beret program, or US Army Special Forces Training Center at Fort Bragg, from which Rambo graduated from. Trautman was also a unit commander for Baker Team between 1970 to 1973. This was Rambo's team, which specialised in behind-enemy operations, including reconnaissance, sabotage, and prisoner extraction. Trautman is credited with saving Rambo's life on numerous occasions back in Vietnam. It's clear Trautman's special brand of Green Beret training involved specialised use of the bottomless Hollywood magazine, the ability to wipe out numerous opponents without aiming, and also, most importantly, after enduring brutal torture at the hands of Soviet interrogators, bounce back within minutes and become fighting fit. The Green Berets, officially known as the United States Army Special Forces, played a crucial role in Vietnam. They specialised in unconventional warfare, counterinsurgency, and training indigenous forces to combat the Viet Cong and North Vietnamese Army. Their missions included reconnaissance, sabotage, and direct action operations, often deep behind enemy lines. The selection process for the Green Berets was rigorous and highly competitive. Candidates had to pass the Special Forces Qualification Course, colloquially known as the Q Course. This tested their ability to operate in a hostile environment, their physical endurance, and their survival skills. Candidates also had to learn a foreign language, as well as be proficient in understanding the cultural and political complexities of the area they were going to deploy to. The primary Green Beret unit in Vietnam was the 5th Special Forces Group that was formed in 1961 and deployed in 1964 to Vietnam to assume command of Special Forces operations. The group operated across all 4 Corps' tactical zones. To give you an idea, here's a snapshot of some bases and a very approximate area of operations. The 5th Special Forces Group set its headquarters up in Nha Trang. From that point on, all SF soldiers in Vietnam were assigned to the 5th until 1971, when the group returned to Fort Bragg. The majority of camps or outposts consisted of around a dozen Green Berets. Each had a specialist skill. In the 1960s, Special Forces soldiers were trained in 5 specialities: weapons, engineering, mainly demolitions, communications, medical, and operations and intelligence, O&I. These 12-man teams, known as A-teams, trained and led hundreds of local fighters. These included indigenous groups like the Montagnards and the Civilian Irregular Defence Group, the CIDG. These bases could be extremely isolated and vulnerable to enemy attack, and there are many stories of extreme gallantry displayed by Green Berets when, faced with overwhelming odds, they had to defend their outposts. They also worked closely with the Australian Army Training Team Vietnam in an advisory role to the local indigenous population, as well as training local civic defence forces. Other Green Berets operated out of forward operating bases, such as in Kantum and Da Nang. Troops from these bases were involved in covert operations, such as cross-border reconnaissance, interdicting enemy supply lines, rescue missions, or supporting wider MACV operations. Other missions included civil action projects in which SF troops built schools, hospitals and government buildings, as well as provided medical care to civilians and even dredged canals. This was the other side of the SF mission, the part of the war designed to win hearts and minds of the people. By the time 5th Special Forces Group left Southeast Asia, their soldiers had earned 17 Medals of Honour, 1 Distinguished Service Medal, 90 Distinguished Service Crosses, over 800 Silver Stars, over 13,000 Bronze Stars, 235 Legions of Merit, 46 Distinguished Flying Crosses, 232 Soldiers' Medals, nearly 5,000 Air Medals, nearly 7,000 Army Commendation Medals, and 2,658 Purple Hearts. I'm sure others were awarded in the years after as further gallantry came to light or awards were upgraded or added. Exact casualty figures are hard to come by due to the sensitive nature of operations, but during this period, nearly 900 Green Berets were killed or went missing in Southeast Asia, out of a total of nearly 20,000 who served during this time. Cross-border raids operated by MACV SOG had a particularly high casualty rate. We've covered the majority of medals that Trautman was awarded here in more detail in other videos, but I thought I would drill into our first medal, as I don't think we've covered that before. The Distinguished Service Medal is a military decoration of the United States Army that is presented to soldiers who have distinguished themselves by exceptionally meritorious service to the government in a duty of great responsibility. The obverse shows the coat of arms of the United States in gold, surrounded by a circle of dark blue enamel, bearing the inscription for Distinguished Service, with the Roman numeral for 1918. On the reverse is a scroll for the name of the recipient, which is to be engraved upon a trophy of flags and weapons. The medal is suspended by a bar attached to a ribbon. The ribbon consists of 2 scarlet stripes on the edges, 2 narrow ultramarine blue stripes, and a white stripe in the centre, which is quite wide. In World War I, this was awarded to commanding officers of Allied armies such as Douglas Haig, John Joseph Pershing, John Monash, Arthur Currie, and Philippe Pétain. More than 2,000 awards were made in World War I of this medal. I do wonder what Trautman thought of Rambo's dodgy mullet by Rambo 3. Not exactly a short back and sides, though I guess this hairdo was in vogue during the 80s. During this era, Rambo wasn't the only ex-Special Forces soldier with a horrific hairdo. His fellow Green Beret, Terry Silver from Cobra Kai / Karate Kid, also sported a magnificent ponytail. Not to mention our own culinary commando, Casey Ryback, the former SEAL. So for Trautman's medals we have Distinguished Service Medal, Legion of Merit, Bronze Star. For his ribbon, although I can't see it properly in this case, I'm going to assume it comes with a valor device, so I've added that. Joint Service Commendation Medal, Army Commendation Medal, Purple Heart, National Defence Service Medal, Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal. Trautman could have received this for a variety of campaigns or expeditions during this era. Vietnam Service Medal with 3 Bronze Service Stars, Armed Forces Reserve Medal. This one slightly thrown me as I'm a bit confused. I would have assumed that Trautman is a regular full-time soldier, So not sure where that's come from. Maybe someone has an explanation in the comments. Army Service Ribbon, Army Overseas Service Ribbon, and then finally 2 foreign awards, a Vietnam Gallantry Cross with Palm and Vietnam Campaign Medal. We also see on the other side unit citations, Presidential Unit Citation, a Republic of Vietnam Presidential Unit Citation, and also a Gallantry Cross Unit Citation emblem with palm and frame. Trautman's fate is unclear as he does not appear in the final 2 Rambo movies. In real life, Richard Crenna passed away in 2003, and it's believed that Stallone implied that Trautman's death aligns with Crenna's. And out of respect for Richard Crenna, Stallone didn't want anyone else playing that character. Thanks for watching. I hope you found some value from this, and I'll see you in the next one.